And then, breaking news right now from overseas. As a result of the debt crisis that exists in that part of the world, violent bank protests tied to the Greek financial crisis have now turned deadly. Senior officials saying firefighters could have saved 3 bank workers trapped in a building burning today, but demonstrators refused to allow the firefighters into the bank. Protesters throwing Molotov cocktails at police and torching buildings in their path. For their part, cops responded with tear gas and a show of force, all of the anger tied to, again, austerity and taxes enforced in exchange for a $141 billion emergency bailout from the International Monetary Fund to prevent their entire economy from collapsing. Our next guest at the forefront of similar efforts to prevent that type of activity or anything remotely like it from making it to our shores. He is the ranking Republican on the House Budget Committee, Congressman Paul Ryan, live with us from Capitol Hill. And Congressman Ryan, it's a pleasure to see you. I know you had meetings today, in fact. Is the conversation, when you look at this, you've got austerity as an option, you've got taxation as an option, and then you also have efficiency and the end of game rigging in the government as an option. I presume all 3 are on the table. Yeah. Do you run into trouble when you propose austerity and taxation but don't deal with game rigging and you end up basically with Greece?
Well, we will end up like Greece, by orders of magnitude even worse. By the way, hi, Dylan. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. And we're on TV, so I figure, you know, go ahead.
Right. So we will end up with a Greece-like situation on our hands. That's something we know is coming, by orders of magnitude even worse than this, if we don't do something to fix it. So that's what the Fiscal Commission is designed to do. You know, I make it a policy of mine not to get into this sort of table talk. What's on the table, what's off the table, you know, what we will or won't do.
I don't want to do that, but I'm saying, listen, we got 3 baskets here. Austerity, taxation, and the end of game rigging, things like audit the Fed, which are mechanisms of which there are many, where risk is given to the American taxpayer and given to America's future by private businesses, in that case financial institutions, who then take the money today and give the risk to America tomorrow.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that kind of casino and then the crony capitalism, both of those have to end.
Yes.
So we have true free market, free enterprise system. But the problem that is driving our debt crisis is a spending problem. I mean, literally, if the revenues were, if they were at trend levels, which they're going to get back to that, the problem is spending literally doubles in size relative to everything else within one generation. By the time my 3 kids are my age, the government today will be more than double what it is today as a percentage of our economy. So we've got to deal with these spenders. So we got to deal with these big spending problems.
So you got to deal with spending, and you also have to deal with creating actual capitalism once again, where you have an efficient, low-margin lending process, you have a high-yield investment process, and a robust educational system so that human beings are not trying to figure out how to pick each other off, but are trying to figure out how to make business for one another. Is that where the conversation is in this commission?
Right now, the conversation is on just the fiscal policy, so on numbers. We just started this thing a week ago. So, you know, today we started talking about discretionary spending and going through the components of discretionary spending. So discretionary spending is the spending on government agency budgets. That's grown a lot lately. Yeah. And so that's something that's got to get taken under control. If you go to my roadmap plan, you'll see that I talk about education quite a bit. Lifelong learning, career education, giving people the ability to go back to school when they've been displaced from an industry that's no longer. So I agree completely with that, but right now we're just basically educating ourselves, members of the commission. Some of them are new to these fiscal issues. Some of us have been working on this for a long time. So people are getting educated as to what exactly is the problem, diagnose the problem, help educate the public as to what exactly the fiscal problem is, and then we got to work on, over the course of the summer and into the fall, solutions to this problem.
Yeah, again, I guess one of and this is a preemptive concern on my part, I don't have evidence for it at this point, although I've seen it in the history of politically, is you go for the low-hanging fruit, which is some of the discretionary spending and some of the things that are easy headlines.
Small
you and I both know as a percentage of our book, that's nothing compared to Social Security, health care, and defense, those 3, and the issue of game rigging, crony capitalism, and extraction using the government as the vehicle to achieve it. Those strike me as the elephants in the room. Do you feel like your panel, your group has the guts, if you will, to actually deal with the elephants?
I don't know about that. I really don't. I just don't know the answer to that question. If this, because of how the commission is designed and rigged, I just don't know if it's going to have that. Now, the things you mentioned before, which I'm really worried about, the casino and the crony capitalism, that speaks to what kind of a country we're going to be. That speaks to Are we going to be an upwardly mobile society where people based on merit can get ahead, not based on, all this other stuff? And will we help large businesses cut deals with large government to try and freeze their station in life at the expense of the little guy who's treating a small business to try and become a big business? I worry that that's the kind of system we might end up creating here for the 21st century. It's inherently against what I would call the American idea. That's not something this commission is going to deal with. That's something that, financial regulatory reform and all those other issues deal with. The commission is fairly narrowly focused on just the fiscal trajectory of this country. And you and I both know the fiscal trajectory is driven by the entitlement programs, and it's the entitlement programs that have to be reformed. Have to. They will be reformed. There's no question in my mind about that. The question is, do we do it now so we can do it with a long lead time so people in and near retirement don't get affected? That's the deal. That's the question. I don't know the answer. I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be.
Yeah, like I said at the top of the show, Congressman, we're a man with a heart condition who refuses to go to the cardiologist to find out exactly what the prognosis is. And it's as if my concern, I guess, Congressman, is that too many of our politicians are concerned that doing the right thing now, which would mean some disruption for us right now, by the way.
That's right.
That would mean that's like postponing a car bomb today in exchange for a nuke tomorrow, because it's in the interest of the politicians to keep postponing today, because they're like, well, hopefully when the BP oil spill happens, or hopefully when the financial crisis happens,
on my watch.
I won't be here. And that's not nice for people like the rest of us. As you know.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. The reason this hasn't gotten done right now is because of political demagoguery from both sides. You take a risk, you put out a bold idea that makes change that's not really pleasant in some people's minds, and you're going to lose your job and you won't get reelected. And that is what has stopped people up here in Washington from tackling these challenges. I got to tell you, though, Dylan, if we don't start tackling these problems now, they're going to tackle us. They will give us the kind of economy where we'll give our kids an inferior standard of living. We know that as a fact. And so you got to have some people come up here in Washington with guts, with fortitude, and who are willing to put out a vision for the future and act on it, and not worry about the next election, not worry about their career, but worry about whether America can reclaim itself.
Couldn't agree more. We're on the same page. Congressman, I'll talk to you soon.